Captain Dongwu stood on the bridge of the human ship Indomitable. The metal floor under his boots vibrated with the hum of the engines. Red warning lights flashed across the control panels. Outside the main window, he could see thousands of alien ships floating in the darkness of space. The enemy fleet stretched as far as the eye could see. Their ships were massive and black, shaped like giant insects with sharp edges and glowing red lights. Each one was 3 times bigger than any human ship. Dongwu had fought many battles in his life, but he had never seen so many enemy ships in one place. "Captain, incoming transmission from the alien fleet," said Hyojin from her station. She was his tactical officer, a young woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel as she worked to clear the signal. "Put it on the main screen," Dongwu said. His voice was calm, but inside he felt the familiar cold feeling that came before every battle. The screen flickered and then showed the face of an alien creature. It was huge, with dark green scales covering its skin. Its eyes were yellow and cold like a snake's eyes. 2 long fangs hung down from its upper jaw. When it spoke, its voice was deep and harsh. "I am Admiral Thexmar of the Velkari Empire," the creature said. "You humans have built a colony on a world that belongs to us. You will surrender now, or we will destroy everything." Behind the alien admiral, Dongwu could see other creatures moving around. They all looked the same, big, strong, and dangerous. Their claws clicked against metal surfaces as they walked. "How long do we have to decide?" Dongwu asked. The alien admiral smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You have 1 hour. After that, we begin burning your colony. Every human on that planet will die. Your ships will be destroyed. Your people will become slaves or food for our warriors." The screen went dark. Silence filled the bridge for a moment. Then Tai Sung, the chief engineer, spoke up from his station near the back of the bridge. "Captain, we've got 15 ships. They have over 7,000. Our weapons can't even scratch their armor. Their shields are too strong." Dongwu walked to the window and looked out at the alien fleet. Each ship bristled with weapons. He had read the reports about what happened when the Velkari attacked other worlds. They didn't just conquer, they destroyed everything. Entire civilizations had been wiped out. "Sir, we could try to run," Hyojin said quietly. "Maybe get some of our people away before they attack." "No," Dongwu said. "They're too fast. They would catch us before we could get half our people to safety." He thought about the colony below them. New Busan was home to 2 million humans, families, children, old people who had worked their whole lives to build something good on this world. They were farmers, teachers, doctors, engineers. They had never hurt anyone. Dongwu had grown up on Earth in the old city of Seoul. He remembered the stories his grandfather told him about the wars that humans had fought against each other. Terrible wars where millions died. But humans had learned something from those wars. They had learned how to fight against enemies who were bigger and stronger than they were. "Open a channel back to the alien admiral," Dongwu said. Hyojin looked surprised. "Sir, are you going to surrender?" "No," Dongwu said. "I'm going to make them an offer." The alien admiral's face appeared on the screen again. This time he looked annoyed that the humans were still talking instead of giving up. "Have you decided to surrender?" Admiral Thexmar asked. "I have a different idea," Dongwu said. "Your people are warriors, right? You believe in honor and strength?" The alien admiral's eyes narrowed. "Of course. The Velkari are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. We have conquered 47 worlds." "Then you'll understand this offer," Dongwu said. "Single combat. You and me. If I win, your fleet leaves and never comes back. If you win, we surrender everything." For a moment, the alien admiral said nothing. Then he began to laugh. It was a horrible sound, like metal scraping against stone. Other aliens in the background were laughing too. "You? A tiny human wants to fight me." The admiral stood up and Dongwu could see how huge he really was. The creature was at least 9 feet tall. His arms were as thick as tree trunks and his claws could probably cut through steel. "I have killed 1,000 enemies with my bare hands. I have torn apart warriors from dozens of different worlds. Are you afraid?" Dongwu asked. The laughter stopped. The alien admiral's eyes flashed with anger. "I fear nothing. But this is foolish. You will die in seconds." "Maybe," Dongwu said. "But your people have rules about honor, don't they? If a smaller enemy challenges you to single combat, you have to accept or you lose face in front of your warriors." Admiral Thexmar was quiet for a long time. Dongwu could see other aliens talking behind him, probably telling him what to do. Finally, the admiral spoke. "Very well, human. We will meet on the neutral station orbiting your colony. 1 hour from now. When I kill you, your people will watch their champion die and then they will surrender without hope. The screen went dark again. Taesung stared at Dongwu. Captain, what are you doing? That thing will tear you apart. It's 3 times your size and probably 10 times stronger. Dongwu smiled for the first time since the alien fleet had arrived. Taesung, how long have you known me? 5 years, sir. And in those 5 years, have you ever seen me do anything that wasn't carefully planned? Heejin was looking at her captain with new understanding. Sir, you're not just going to fight that alien, are you? You have a plan. I have something better than a plan, Dongwu said. I have something that alien has never faced before. I have 4,000 years of human warfare experience, and I know something about his species that he doesn't know I know. He turned to face his crew. Contact the colony. Tell Governor Boram to be ready, and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them that in 2 hours they're going to receive a very interesting report. Outside the window, the alien fleet waited like a swarm of metal insects. They thought they were about to watch their admiral kill a foolish human. They had no idea that they were about to learn why humans had spent thousands of years finding new and creative ways to kill things that were bigger and stronger than they were. The neutral station was old and gray, floating in the empty space between the human colony and the alien fleet. It had been built years ago as a meeting place for different species to trade and talk. Now it would be the place where either a human captain died or an alien admiral learned that humans were not easy prey. Dongwu walked through the metal hallways of the station. His boots made sharp sounds on the floor. He was wearing his military uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. On his belt hung a simple knife and a small device that looked like a radio. He carried no other weapons because the rules of single combat were clear. No guns, no advanced technology, just strength against strength. But Dongwu had secrets that the alien admiral could not see. Under his uniform, thin wires ran along his arms and legs. Tiny machines had been placed inside his muscles and bones years ago when he was a young soldier. They made him faster and stronger than a normal human, but more importantly, they made him think faster. Information flowed through his brain like lightning. The arena was in the center of the station. It was a large round room with high walls. The floor was made of rough metal with pipes and machinery scattered around. This was not a pretty fighting ring. It was a place where industrial equipment had been moved out to make room for combat. Governor Boram was already there, standing behind a thick glass wall where humans could watch safely. She was a small woman with gray hair and worried eyes. Next to her stood Minho, the colony's defense coordinator. He was young and nervous, constantly checking his communication device for updates from the colony below. Captain Dongwu, Boram said through the communication system. Are you sure about this? That creature is enormous. Maybe we should try to negotiate or, Governor, Dongwu interrupted gently. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. On the other side of the arena, behind another glass wall, dozens of alien warriors watched and waited. They were all huge creatures with scales and claws, but Dongwu could see that they were excited. They thought they were about to watch their admiral tear apart a weak human. Admiral Thexmar entered the arena from the alien side. The sound of his footsteps was like thunder. Up close, he was even more terrifying than he had looked on the screen. His green scales looked like armor plating. His yellow eyes glowed in the artificial light. When he moved, muscles rippled under his skin like steel cables. Human, the admiral said, his voice echoing in the large room. You still have time to surrender and die quickly. I could make your death painless. Dongwu walked to the center of the arena. Compared to the huge alien, he looked like a child standing next to a giant. I appreciate the offer, he said, but I think I'll try to win instead. The alien admiral laughed. Win? Look at yourself, tiny creature. I am 3 times your height and 10 times your weight. My claws can cut through metal. My scales can stop bullets. What do you have? Dongwu smiled. I have something your species has never learned to fight against. And what is that? A human who really wants to hurt you. The signal to begin came from speakers around the arena. Admiral Thexmar immediately charged forward, moving faster than something his size should be able to move. His claws swept through the air where Dongwu had been standing just a moment before, but the human was no longer there. Dongwu had rolled to the side and was now behind a piece of machinery. The alien admiral's claws had cut deep grooves in the metal floor. Stand still and fight like a warrior, The Admiral roared. Why? Dongwu called out from behind his cover. So you can kill me easily? That doesn't sound very smart. The alien Admiral charged again, his massive feet shaking the floor. This time, Dongwu waited until the last second before moving. The Admiral's momentum carried him past the human and into a metal pipe. The pipe bent under the impact, but the Admiral was not hurt. You fight like a coward, Admiral Thexmar said, turning around slowly. I fight like a human, Dongwu replied. We learned a long time ago that brave dead heroes don't protect their families. The Admiral tried a different approach. Instead of charging, he began to move carefully through the arena, using his size and reach to corner the human. His claws scraped against metal as he moved, making horrible sounds that echoed through the room. Dongwu kept moving, staying just out of reach. But he was not just running away. He was studying his enemy. Every movement, every breath, every expression on the alien's face told him something important. The machines in his brain were recording everything and looking for patterns. You cannot run forever, the Admiral said. This room is not that large. Soon you will have nowhere to go. You're right, Dongwu said. But I'm not trying to run forever. I'm trying to understand you. Understand me. I am death. I am destruction. What else do you need to understand? I need to understand why you're breathing so hard already. Admiral Thexmar paused. It was true. His breathing was becoming heavier. The human was making him work harder than he expected. Usually his enemies either stood still and died quickly, or they ran around screaming until he caught them. This human was different. He moved with purpose, like he was hunting instead of being hunted. Your species is used to fighting enemies who are afraid of you, Dongwu continued, still moving. But humans learned to hunt animals that were bigger and stronger than us. We've been doing it for thousands of years. The Admiral charged again, but this time Dongwu did not just dodge. As the huge alien went past him, the human's knife flashed out. It was only a small cut on the Admiral's leg, but it drew blood. Admiral Thexmar stopped and looked down at the wound. Green blood was dripping onto the floor. It was not a serious injury, but it was the first time in many years that anyone had managed to hurt him. How did you? He began. Your scales are tough on the front and sides, Dongwu said, but they're thinner at the joints where you need to bend. Every armor has weak points. You just have to know where to look. The alien Admiral's eyes narrowed with new respect and anger. This human was not just running around randomly. He was studying, learning, adapting. It was like fighting a creature that became smarter and more dangerous every minute. No more games, Admiral Thexmar growled. I will tear you apart piece by piece. Good, Dongwu said, pulling out his knife again. I was getting bored with the easy part. The alien Admiral realized with growing alarm that the human was not afraid. Even worse, the human seemed to be enjoying this. What kind of creature found joy in fighting something that could kill it so easily? Admiral Thexmar was about to learn that humans were the kind of creature that had spent thousands of years figuring out how to kill everything else on their planet, and they had gotten very, very good at it. The arena had become a maze of shadows and death. Dongwu moved through the scattered machinery like a ghost, appearing and disappearing behind pipes and metal boxes. Each time Admiral Thexmar thought he had cornered the human, Dongwu would vanish again only to strike from a different direction. Stop hiding and fight me properly, the Admiral roared, his voice echoing off the walls. But Dongwu was not hiding. He was hunting. There was a difference that the alien was beginning to understand. When an animal hides, it tries to stay away from danger. When a predator hunts, it studies its prey and waits for the perfect moment to kill. Fighting properly? Dongwu's voice came from somewhere behind a large pipe. You mean standing still so you can rip my head off? That sounds like your idea of proper, not mine. Admiral Thexmar spun around, trying to find where the voice was coming from. His claws scraped against metal as he moved. Green blood still dripped from the small wound on his leg. It was not much blood, but it was enough to show that he could be hurt. In every battle, my enemies try to match strength with strength, the Admiral said, moving carefully through the machinery. They believe that honor comes from facing death without fear. Honor doesn't keep your family alive, Dongwu replied. Results do. The human appeared suddenly from behind a metal box, his knife flashing toward the Admiral's side. But this time the alien was ready. His massive hand swept down to crush the small human. Dongwu was already moving before the hand reached him. The knife cut another thin line across the Admiral's ribs, just under his arm where the scales were thinner. Then the human was gone again, rolling under a low pipe. Admiral Thexmar looked down at the new wound. Another small cut, but it was exactly where his armor was weakest. This human knew things about his body that even some of his own people did not know. "How do you know where to cut me?" the admiral demanded. "Your people have been fighting wars for hundreds of years," Dongwu said from his new hiding place. "Did you think we weren't watching? Did you think we weren't learning?" On the human side of the arena, Governor Boram watched with growing amazement. She had expected to see her captain die within minutes. Instead, she was watching something that looked more like a nature documentary about a predator hunting its prey. "Minho," she whispered to the defense coordinator. "What is he doing?" Minho was staring at the fight with wide eyes. "He's not trying to win quickly, Governor. He's trying to break that thing's mind." It was true. Every cut that Dongwu made was small and precise. None of them were serious injuries, but they were all in places where Admiral Thexmar had thought he was completely protected. The alien was beginning to doubt his own strength. Back on the human ship Indomitable, Communications Officer Yunji was listening to radio signals from the alien fleet. What she heard made her face go pale. "Captain Hai-Jin," she called out. "You need to hear this." Hye-Jin, who was watching the fight on the main screen, turned to listen to the alien communications that Yunji had translated. "What are they saying?" "They're scared," Yunji said with disbelief in her voice. "The alien crews are actually scared. They're asking each other how a human could be hurting their admiral. Some of them are saying maybe they should retreat." Hye-Jin smiled grimly. "The captain is fighting two battles at once. One against the admiral and one against the whole alien fleet." In the arena, Admiral Thexmar was beginning to understand what the human was really doing. This was not a simple fight between two warriors. This was psychological warfare on a level that his species had never experienced. "You are trying to make me afraid," the admiral said. "I don't need to make you afraid," Dongwu replied, his voice coming from a different direction now. "You're already afraid. You're just not ready to admit it yet. I have never been afraid of anything." "Then why are you breathing so hard? Why are you moving slower than when we started? Why do you keep looking at the small cuts I've given you?" The admiral realized that all of these things were true. His breathing was heavy, not from being tired but from stress. His movements were more careful because he no longer felt completely safe. And he did keep looking at the wounds, wondering how the human had known exactly where to strike. "Your people conquer other species because they give up hope," Dongwu continued, still moving through the shadows. "They see your big ships and your strong warriors and they decide they cannot win. But humans are different. We don't give up hope. We give up fear." Admiral Thexmar charged toward the sound of the human's voice, but again Dongwu was not where the alien expected him to be. This time the knife cut across the back of the admiral's knee, finding another gap in his natural armor. The admiral stumbled and almost fell. It was the first time in his life that he had been knocked off balance by an enemy. "Impossible," he whispered. "Your species thinks about warfare like a rock slide," Dongwu said. "You believe that if you are big enough and strong enough, you can crush anything in your path. But humans think about warfare like water. We flow around obstacles. We find the cracks. We slowly wear down even the strongest stone." The alien admiral was beginning to panic. This human was not fighting like any enemy he had ever faced. Every other species tried to be stronger or faster or tougher. This human was trying to be smarter. "What do you want from me?" Admiral Thexmar demanded. "I want you to understand something," Dongwu said, appearing briefly from behind a piece of machinery before vanishing again. "Every species you have conquered was civilized. They had rules about war. They believed in fighting honorably. They thought there were some things that were too terrible to do even to enemies. And humans are different. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other before we ever met another species. We learned every possible way to hurt, kill, and destroy. We became very, very good at war. And then we decided to stop fighting each other and be civilized instead." Admiral Thexmar felt a chill run through his scaled body. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that when you threaten our families, we remember how to be uncivilized again." The human appeared one more time, but this attack was different. Instead of a quick cut and retreat, Dongwu moved with deadly purpose. His knife found the nerve cluster just behind the admiral's left shoulder. It was a precise strike that caused terrible pain without doing permanent damage. Admiral Thexmar screamed and fell to his knees. His left arm went numb and useless. "Now," Dongwu said, standing over the fallen alien, "let's have a real conversation about what's going to happen next." Admiral Thexmar knelt on the metal floor, his left arm hanging useless at his side. Green blood dripped from several small wounds across his body. The great warrior who had conquered 47 worlds was struggling to understand how a tiny human had brought him to his knees. Dongwu stood a few feet away, his knife clean and ready. But instead of finishing the fight, he began to speak in a calm, quiet voice that somehow sounded more frightening than any roar. "Tell me, Admiral," Dongwu said, "how is your clutch brother doing these days?" The alien's yellow eyes went wide with shock. "What did you say?" "Vexthor, I believe his name was. Your clutch brother who died in the Proxima campaign 3 years ago. The one who was always better at strategy than you were. The one your father loved more." Admiral Thexmar stared at the human in horror. This information was not in any military database. This was personal, private knowledge that only his family should know. "How do you know that name?" the Admiral whispered. "We know many things," Dongwu said, walking slowly around the kneeling alien. "We know that you have been trying to prove yourself worthy of your father's love ever since your brother died. We know that you volunteer for the most dangerous missions because you hope to die gloriously in battle. We know that you lie awake at night wondering if you will ever be half the warrior your brother was." Back on the human ship Indomitable, Chief Intelligence Officer Yoon Seo was watching the fight with satisfaction. She had spent 3 years gathering information about Velkari military leaders. She knew their family histories, their personal fears, their secret shames. All of that intelligence was now flowing through the communication device in Dongwu's belt, directly into his enhanced brain. "How is he getting all this information?" Jin asked. "Years of preparation," Yunseo replied. "We've been watching the Velkari Empire since they first appeared in our territory. We know things about their leaders that they've never told anyone." In the arena, Admiral Thexmar was beginning to shake, not from his injuries, but from the terrible realization that this human knew his deepest secrets. "Your father never forgave you for surviving when your brother died, did he?" Dongwu continued. "He looks at you and sees the wrong son. The weaker son. The son who lived only because he was too cowardly to fight as bravely as his brother." "Stop," Admiral Thexmar said weakly. "Your mate, Silnova, pretends to love you, but she still keeps pictures of your brother in her private chambers. She still whispers his name when she thinks you cannot hear. She settled for you because the better brother was dead." "Stop," the Admiral shouted, trying to stand, but the nerve damage in his shoulder made him fall back to his knees. "And your own warriors, the ones watching this fight right now, they follow you only because military law requires it. They know you are not the leader your brother would have been. They know you make decisions based on anger instead of wisdom. They know you are a disappointment." Admiral Thexmar began to sob. Green tears ran down his scaled face as decades of buried pain and shame poured out of him. The mighty conqueror who had destroyed civilizations was crying like a child. Behind the glass wall, the alien warriors watched their admiral break down. They had never seen him show weakness before. Some of them began to talk nervously among themselves. "How does the human know these things?" one alien warrior asked another. "Maybe humans have magic," the second warrior replied. "Maybe they can see into our souls," but Dongwu was not finished. "The psychological attack was just beginning. Your last promotion was not earned through merit," the human continued. "It was given to you because the High Command felt sorry for you. They thought that maybe important missions would help you forget your brother's death. But it didn't work, did it? Every victory just reminded you that you were alive when he was not." The Admiral's sobs grew louder. His massive body shook with grief that he had held inside for years. "You know what the worst part is?" Dongwu said, crouching down to look directly into the alien's eyes. "Your brother would be ashamed of what you became. He would be disgusted that you turned into a bully who hurts innocent people just to make yourself feel strong." Governor Boram watched from behind the safety glass with amazement and horror. She had expected to see a physical fight, but this was something else entirely. This was a complete dismantling of another being's soul. "Minho," she whispered. "Is this what humans are really like when we're threatened?" Minho nodded slowly. Captain Dongwu was Special Forces before he became a ship captain. They trained him to break enemies psychologically before killing them physically. It's more effective than just using weapons. In the arena, Admiral Thexmar looked up at Dongwu with broken eyes. "Please," he whispered. "Just kill me. End this." "No," Dongwu said firmly. "Death would be mercy. And humans don't give mercy to creatures who threaten our children." The captain stood up and began walking around the kneeling admiral again. "Let me tell you what's going to happen next. You're going to surrender your fleet. You're going to order your warriors to retreat from human space, and then you're going to spend the rest of your life knowing that you were defeated by a species you thought was weak. My warriors will never follow such orders, the Admiral said weakly. They will, Dongwu replied, because they just watched their great leader get broken by a tiny human. They're scared now. They're wondering what other things humans know about them. They're wondering if we know their secrets too. Admiral Thexmar realized that this was true. He could see his own warriors through the glass wall, and they looked afraid. They were whispering to each other and glancing nervously at the human who had reduced their admiral to tears. But first, Dongwu said, you need to understand the most important lesson that humans can teach you. What lesson? That there is always a bigger monster. Your species thinks you are the apex predators of the galaxy. You think you are the most dangerous creatures that exist, but you have never met anything like humans before. Dongwu activated his communication device. Yunseo, send the Admiral the files we prepared. A moment later, Admiral Thexmar's personal communicator began showing images and data. It was information about human history. The wars, the weapons, the millions of people who had died in conflicts between human nations. It showed the terrible things that humans had done to each other before they learned to live in peace. This is what we were like before we became civilized, Dongwu said as the Admiral stared at the horrific images. This is what we are like when we stop holding back. Are you beginning to understand why threatening our families was a mistake? Admiral Thexmar looked at the data with growing terror. These humans had killed more of their own species than the Velkari Empire had killed in all their wars of conquest, and they had done it with primitive weapons before they had starships and advanced technology. What kind of monsters are you? The Admiral whispered. The kind that learned to stop being monsters, Dongwu replied. But we remember how, just in case we need to be monsters again. Admiral Thexmar knelt in the center of the arena, broken in body and spirit. His yellow eyes stared at nothing as tears of green blood ran down his scaled face. The mighty warrior who had conquered worlds could barely lift his head. Dongwu stood over him, no longer looking like a small human facing a giant monster. Now he looked like exactly what he was, a predator who had finished playing with his prey. Please, Admiral Thexmar whispered. Just end this. Kill me and be done with it. I told you already, Dongwu said calmly. Death is mercy, and you don't deserve mercy. The human captain pulled out his knife one final time, but instead of making another small cut, he moved with surgical precision. The blade found the exact spot where the Admiral's skull connected to his spine. With movements that seemed almost gentle, Dongwu began to cut. Admiral Thexmar screamed as he realized what was happening. The human was not killing him quickly. He was slowly, carefully removing his head while keeping him alive through most of the process. The machines in Dongwu's brain gave him perfect knowledge of Velkari anatomy. He knew exactly how to cause maximum pain while preventing immediate death. Behind the glass walls, both human and alien observers watched in horror. This was not a clean military execution. This was something primitive and terrible, like the ancient human wars that Dongwu had shown in the historical files. Governor Boram covered her eyes. Dear God, she whispered. What have we become? But Minho understood. We've become what we need to be to protect our families, he said quietly. The captain is sending a message that the entire galaxy will understand. The screaming went on for longer than anyone thought possible. When it finally stopped, Dongwu held Admiral Thexmar's severed head in his hands. Green blood dripped from his uniform as he walked toward the exit that led to the alien side of the station. On the alien ships, thousands of Velkari warriors watched their screens in silent terror. Their great admiral, the conqueror of 47 worlds, had been slowly butchered by a creature they had thought was weak and helpless. What do we do now? One ship captain asked another over their communication system. We wait, came the reply, and we pray to our ancestors that the human shows us mercy. Dongwu entered the conference room where the surviving Velkari officers had gathered. They were all huge creatures with scales and claws, but they pressed themselves against the walls when the small human entered. Their natural armor and massive size meant nothing now. They had seen what this human could do. Without saying a word, Dongwu walked to the center of the conference table and dropped Admiral Thexmar's severed head onto the metal surface. It landed with a wet thud that echoed through the silent room. Green blood splattered across the table and onto the floor. Now, Dongwu said in a perfectly calm voice, let's discuss terms. The ranking alien officer, a creature called Sub-Admiral Kexville, stared at the severed head with wide, terrified eyes. "Terms of our surrender?" he asked weakly. "No," Dongwu replied, sitting down in a chair across from the aliens. His uniform was still splattered with their admiral's blood, but he acted as if nothing unusual had happened. "Terms of your new job." "Our new job?" Dongwu smiled, and every alien in the room took a step backward. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just finished eating and was deciding what to hunt next. "You see, Sub-Admiral, there has been a change in the balance of power in this galaxy. Your empire made the mistake of threatening human civilians. That was unwise." As Dongwu spoke, his communication device was sending signals to hidden transmitters throughout Velkari space. For months, human intelligence operatives had been placing small devices on alien ships and stations. Now those devices activated, sending a simple message to every Velkari facility in the galaxy. The humans are here. At the same time, human fleets that had been hidden in dark space around the edges of Velkari territory began moving toward major alien worlds. The entire negotiation at New Busan had been a trap designed to make the Velkari Empire focus all their attention on one place, while humans moved into position elsewhere. "Impossible," Sub-Admiral Kexville whispered as reports began flooding in from across Velkari space. "Our sensors would have detected any large human fleet movement." "Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect," Dongwu replied. "While you were watching our obvious military ships, our real forces were traveling in cargo vessels and civilian transports. We've been surrounding your empire for months." The aliens realized they had been completely outmaneuvered. The humans had not just won a single fight. They had won an entire war without the Velkari Empire even knowing that a war was happening. "What do you want from us?" Sub-Admiral Kexville asked. "Simple," Dongwu said, leaning back in his chair. "From now on, your empire works for us. Not as slaves, but as employees." "Employees? Your job will be to travel to every system in this galaxy and deliver a message. You will tell every alien species you meet that humans are not to be threatened. You will explain what happens to those who try to hurt human civilians. You will make sure that everyone understands the new rules." Dongwu stood up and walked around the table. The aliens tried to move away from him, but there was nowhere to go in the small room. "You see, we don't want to conquer the galaxy," he continued. "We don't want to rule over other species or take their worlds. We just want to be left alone to live our lives in peace. But if anyone threatens our people, they will discover what humans are really like when we stop being civilized." Sub-Admiral Kexville stared at the severed head on the table. "And if we refuse to carry this message?" "Then you die," Dongwu said simply. "All of you. Every Velkari in the galaxy. We have enough ships in position to destroy your entire civilization in less than a day. The choice is yours." The alien officer realized that this was not a negotiation. This was a human telling him what was going to happen, whether he liked it or not. We accept your terms," Sub-Admiral Kexville said quietly. "Good," Dongwu replied. "You can start by sending a message to every ship in your fleet. Tell them to retreat from human space immediately. Tell them that Admiral Thexmar is dead and that humans are not prey." As the aliens began sending orders to their fleet, Dongwu activated his communication device one more time. "Governor Boram, this is Captain Dongwu. The colony is safe. The threat has been eliminated." "Captain," came the governor's shaky voice. "What you did in there, was that really necessary?" "Yes," Dongwu replied without hesitation. "Sometimes the only way to avoid a war is to show your enemies that you are too dangerous to fight. The Velkari Empire will spend the next 100 years telling stories about what happens when you threaten human families. Those stories will keep our people safe." Over the next few months, the message spread throughout the galaxy. Alien civilizations that had never heard of humans before learned about the species that had defeated the mighty Velkari Empire. The stories grew with each telling, becoming legends that parents used to frighten their children. "Be good," alien parents would tell their young ones, "or the humans will come for you." But humans did not come for anyone. They stayed in their own territory, building peaceful colonies and exploring the stars. They traded with other species and shared their knowledge freely. They seemed like kind, gentle creatures who would never hurt anyone. Only a few beings in the galaxy knew the truth, that humans had learned to be peaceful by first becoming very, very good at war. And they remembered how to fight when they needed to protect the things they loved. The galaxy was a safer place now, not because humans ruled it, but because everyone knew that humans were always watching, always ready, and always willing to do whatever was necessary to protect their own. Captain Dongwu returned to his ship and his crew, where he went back to being a quiet, thoughtful leader, who preferred diplomacy to violence. But sometimes, late at night, other ship captains would look at him and wonder what terrible things he was capable of if someone threatened his people. They never found out, because no one was ever foolish enough to test him again.